Hey guys, okay, and welcome to another episode of the Mise-En-Sesh podcast. I am George, he's Elliot, and this lovely face here is my younger brother, Sam.
Hello.
Hello. So Sam is currently studying at uni, and is it media,
Communications
creative,
and media.
yeah, communications and media. So followed suit to myself and decided to go into the media
Okay.
industry.
Okay. Take
So
the praise.
yeah, yeah. So pretty much, you would you call yourself a fan of film?
Yeah, definitely. Not to the extent that you would, because I don't really see my future going into film production. But I'd definitely say it's something I enjoy a lot. Yeah.
Okay. This is just a question to both of you. What is something happening in the industry now that is exciting you? That is sort of we've touched on this briefly before, Elliot, about the sort of the
Yeah.
technology in the industry, but like, what is something you're seeing now which is it's making you excited to be a part of it, or just sort of looking forward to how it's going to progress in the future?
It's a good
Yeah, that's a good
question.
question.
It's a very tough question to get you started.
The
Exactly.
thing is, I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of an answer
It's
that's different to what we've already talked about at length in a different episode. But yeah, like for me, it's the technology that's making these bigger budget looking things more
Mm.
achievable for smaller budget like teams and productions. Like the we've talked about it before again at length is the volume, the LED volume thing they used to make the Mandalorian and a bunch of other stuff. Like being able to just you know create pretty much whatever set you need or whatever backdrop you need, just with the help of a technical team, rather than having to go out and fly out to find a desert location that looks a bit like Mars or whatever. You can just get someone who knows how to do it in Unreal Engine and get yourself a LED volume. Sure, it's very easy to get them.
Oh yeah.
And it just basically
mm,
you can create these incredible looking shots and stuff with relatively speaking, not a lot of money. Which means the production value of lower budget things is going to go up and up and up, and it's just a good time.
that's good. Cause I've seen that as a part of the Mandalorian. But I'd like fire back the question, saying, do you not think that sort of removes the magic of
It does, it does,
being
yeah.
in the scene in the
Yeah, I
setting?
do go with that. In the future, hopefully not too far away, but in the future when I'm making my own projects and stuff, I'm very much I want to see and feel the locations and the sets and stuff like that. That's like if I was shooting a film set in medieval castles and dragons and whatever. I couldn't get a real dragon, but I'd try and find a real castle. I'd have real props and extras and stuff like that. That's very much what I like and appreciate from films. But I'm not gonna pretend that just because I like the physical side of it, I'm not gonna pretend that having the ability to create a virtual set isn't a great thing, because a huge amount of shows rely on virtual sets, whether it's green screen or just straight up CG, or if it's using something like the volume. So it just expands the horizons for smaller budget things, and that gives people the chance to make more stuff. So if you've got an idea for a TV series and you can't pull a big enough budget to get this big set that you would ordinarily need. Now you don't necessarily need that. You just need access to a studio with a volume, and you can still sort of tell the story. So it just gives us more stuff to watch, and I'm all for that. Anything that enables people to make what they want to make, I'm all for it. But yeah, I will admit I am very much traditional. I want to have physical props and actual real extras, not CG and stuff like that, as much as possible.
Mm. Yeah, I can't say I noticed it in the Mandalorian. To be fair, I think they did a really good job on that. So, only afterwards you look at it, you go, "Oh, is that not a real background?" Yeah,
Yeah,
I had no
it
idea.
was.
I think the joy of that is for things like, alien planets. You're filming it on a green screen 9 times out of 10. So it's hard. I think it's harder for the cast and like the camera as well. Trying to frame up that when it's not even there, it's sort of you're just looking at a big block of green, and you're just told, right, imagine this is what it
Yeah.
looks like. Whereas with the volume, it's like, right, you don't have to imagine because you're looking at it. That's exactly how it's going to look in the show. So it gives them something to react to. It might not be physical. They might not be able to walk and touch it, but it gives them that sort of, I don't want to say an emotional connection
It's
to it, but
immersive.
it's like they can,
Like you
yeah,
can feel the.
it's a more immersive feel. Like it's not as good as a physical set, obviously. Um, and in Mandalorian they did use physical
Yeah, they had
sets.
like they had
Uh,
the background. The background was like on the volume one, and then they had like physical elements that were in the foreground that were real, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
For the
oh
most
yeah,
part,
no,
like
I more meant they had like
yeah,
actual sets outside as well. Like there's the scene on the boat where you get the three other Mandalorians come in and save the Mandalorian.
Spoiler.
And then also the scene with Boba and is it Fennec, who like where she's jumping off all the rocks, like with a sniper and all the
Oh
stormtroopers.
yeah, I
Yes.
do know that one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's all physical. And it does having things like that where they do just move around in this vast open space. That then sells the sets where it's like 90% of it is virtual, which I think is really cool because it is, yeah, like you say, you do go back and you're like, but was that real or like was that just like a trick of the camera? So I think that, yeah, I think that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Good answer from Elliot
it's a
there.
good
Yeah.
combo. Like it's you've got the like the flexibility that you get from having just like a green screen, but you've got a little bit of the immersion and the sort of the not the realism, but like the physical awareness of what's happening. Like you can see the set, the set that's there. So yeah, it's basically like the best hybrid between green screen and practical production all put together. So yeah, yeah, not to repeat myself, but yeah, I think it's good.
No, fair enough. Yeah, no,
I'm trying to think of
I'd
myself.
have to say something I'm excited about. It's not as sort of amazing and like futuristic as say the volume, but it's something as basic as we are seeing a lot more. Um, like you're seeing a lot more ethnic films where they have minimal sort of Caucasian casting. Sort of the most the one that comes to mind for me is Crazy Rich Asians because I've watched that one fairly
I've
recently.
not seen that one.
No, me
It's a
I
neither.
need to
good.
watch that
It is
one.
a good film, and it's a great look into Asian culture, which, as people who've grown up in England with a very white background, you don't even think about it. It's not something which really comes to mind. But then Shang-Chi, which is the new Marvel film coming out later this year, which again is a majority Asian cast, and it's essentially a martial arts film done in the style of the older martial arts films. Um, and I just think it's quite exciting being able to see all these other other characters coming in and just being, as recognizable as say
Yeah,
like Batman or Iron Man kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's quite exciting.
I was gonna say, just for me, it wouldn't really be to do with like technology, but I'm sure you guys would have touched on this before. Like the format, I just really like the idea of merging film and TV. So when you got these new Disney Plus shows, it may just be a bad thing when you got people like Scorsese. I don't know. You must have heard this quote before that he's saying that it's not real cinema, right? Like all the sort of Marvel films, but
Oh,
I
because
just,
it's
I just
just yeah.
because it's just I mean like you say when you've got these green screens and stuff when you see it in the film it looks interesting but when you sit behind the scenes it's just them on some fake rocks with some green screen there but
Hmm.
I just quite like the merging like it's a different sort of audience so you don't have to wait 2 years for this new film you can now have these TV shows at home and stuff I think it's a bit more of a different dynamic
see, I'm equal parts excited about that, but also worried about that as well. Like,
yeah I can see why
like again, it's I think it's mainly a Marvel thing that's influenced my opinion on this, but it's um, like I'll admit, like George, you know this, but like I didn't watch all the Marvel films as they came out because I was at the time I was so sick of Marvel films. It was like every time I looked at the cinema, there was a Marvel film that was like, "Hey, come and watch this." I was like, "There's too much. I'm bored of superheroes at this point. I want to watch other stuff." But I've gone back and over the past few months, I've watched pretty much most of the MCU, bar a few here and there. I can't remember which ones. And it's like what I really enjoy about watching the MCU films is it's the you in MCU. Like I like watching like the universe and the way the characters change and the way the you know, like the consequences of their actions in a previous film affect or like directly influence this next film, whatever it is. I love that. I love like world building. That's something that really makes cinema like amazing for me. But like the Disney Plus shows, like I like being able to get more glimpses into the world that I'm sort of invested in at this point. But it's like I was a big fan of WandaVision. I liked WandaVision. It wasn't perfect. It had its faults, but I enjoyed it. And then like again, I don't want to talk about it too much because I haven't seen the newest episode. But the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, I've been so like here and there on that because it's like on the one hand you've got two of the Avengers and it's like, oh my god, it's the Avengers and they're just in the world after the snap, and on the other hand you've got these sort of, they feel like undercooked like villains, the what are they called? I don't even know what they're called.
The flag
That's
smashers.
it, flag smashers. See, I don't even know what they're called. And I pay attention to stuff. Like it drives, like when my girlfriend Holly watches stuff and she forgets who are characters and stuff, it drives me crazy. Like I'm very much like, pay attention. You're watching a film, but even for me, like, I just forget who they are because it feels so like they're just sort of there to give them a reason to make the series, if you get what I mean. And
I was having this chat earlier where it shows do callbacks. So say if a show's been running for 4 seasons and they do a callback in season 4 to something which happened in season 1. If you have watched the show how it is meant to be presented, that is over 4 years. So you are having to remember back something which happened 4 years ago. And I mean, most of the time, if you're a fan of the show, either you've seen the episodes multiple times, so it's, you know it, or it's something big where it's, like it stands out. It's a big event. So it's like in 10 years' time, when in the MCU they reference the snap, it's like you know what that is. Like they don't just need to keep hammering home what happened. They just say the snap and you know exactly what happened. But I watched Supernatural. I've discussed this already. I watched 15 seasons of Supernatural during first like the. It was last year. I watched it all. Or was it early? Lockdowns have just merged at this point. I can't remember when I watched it, but I watched all 15 seasons in a short span of time. And in the final episode, they have a character, walk into the scene, and then the two leads, Sam and Dean, like, oh, it's you. It's like, I'm looking at this like, right, I've literally watched 15 years of TV, and I have no idea who the hell that character is. Turns out it's someone from season 1. And I'm like, how the hell is anyone meant to know that without looking it up? Because the character was not majorly significant. They were in one episode. They were not even a big part of that episode. It's like, I don't understand the unnecessary callbacks for things like that. With the flag smashers in Falcon and Soldier, I really feel like they are just there as sort of cannon fodder. Like they aren't really they don't really add much to the story. It's more just sort of they are there to get Sam and Bucky together and from A to B. That's it. The main issue is John Walker. He's the one who is sort of pushing back against them, and that he's the one who everyone hates. But yet these flag smashers are off doing things on the side. It's like, I don't really care what they're doing.
My issue isn't the fact they exist. My issue is the fact they get so much screen time, and they try to build them out as characters and try to make you sort of like care a bit or be a little bit invested in them. But it's like, if you're going to have something that is pretty much just basically a plot device to drive the real story, which is obviously who's going to be the next Captain America, that sort of conflict there. The Flag Smashers are just a catalyst for that real story. And if you're going to have that, just let them be the catalyst. Don't try and turn them into like their own sort of thing that you want to care about, or like like when they have that. I don't even know the character's name. Is it Carly?
Carly,
like
the lead,
giving all these speeches, and it's like blah, 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 and I'm just like, shut up! Like you're insignificant to the actual story that people actually care about. And if that's fine to have those sort of story catalysts, but don't try and turn them into their own sort of thing. To sort of let them be what they are, which is a means to an end to get the real story of the John Walker situation going. But that's just me.
I've just remembered, Sam, you haven't seen the show yet, have you?
I haven't. No, I'm just sitting here trying not
we've
to
just
spoil
said
it
names.
myself.
We've just said names.
Yeah.
But
It's like saying Thanos and Avengers. It's not really a spoiler. It's just a
it's a
bad
fact,
guy,
yeah.
isn't it? So no, I've not seen that one. I will watch it though eventually. I was just going to say though, when you mentioned WandaVision before, I think that's like the highs and the lows of this new sort of system. Because for me, when I was watching it, the first couple episodes were just like, what is going on here? This is not very good, because you needed to invest in it and have more time spent watching it. So by the end, it all made sense. But those first couple episodes where they're like, just hold on and make sure you can stick through it. And if it was a show other than Marvel, which I didn't really know much about, and didn't really know if it would come full circle, I probably would have left it. But because I knew it was Marvel, I was like, okay, I'll stick through it. But those first two episodes didn't really make any sense.
Well, I think that's the point, though. It's like, because the characters, Wanda and Vision,
yeah.
but you're just there like, why the hell are they in this setting? That's what kept me there. Because, I'll admit, the first two episodes, I watched them, I was like, the hell is going on? And it's the final, I can't remember if they do it in the first episode or if it's the second one, where the camera pulls out right at the end as the credits are rolling, like the in-camera credits are rolling. It pulls out and it goes into widescreen format, and you see someone writing something down, and it's like that was the thing where I was like, oh damn, because it was like it jogged me back into the thing of this isn't a real show, this is something happening within the universe and we're trying to figure out why. But one so these are the first, so WandaVision was the first show which Kevin Feige, so the Marvel, I don't know if he's the president or whatever he is, but he said these are the first shows within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the first TV shows. But then, you had things like Runaways, Legends, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they all reference the events of the Marvel films. Like they all, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. literally came about after the events of Avengers. Like it follows on Phil Coulson's story, because he dies in the Avengers film, but then he's in this show and it explains. He's in the bloody poster. But it explains how he's still alive, and then it explores those avenues, and it's just sort of the wider universe, sort of outside of just the Avengers. And then they've just turned around and said, yeah, these shows aren't connected anymore. Like they're their own thing. They're like, we're not ever going to reference them again, even though they have crossovers where characters pop up from the MCU, from the films. They pop up in the show. They've just cut the show off and they're like, yeah, it's not a thing anymore. We're not claiming it as part of the MCU. So there was a thing I saw where a guy was saying, well, why are we bothering to put emotion in when we're watching it then? Like, why are we bothering to make a connection if you just turn around at any second when the shows aren't doing well and say, yeah, no, it's not a thing anymore? Like,
I think it's different because like the new shows like WandaVision and Falcon are like, it's not like they were just sort of created alongside the MCU. They are a direct continuation of the MCU. I think that's the difference between them. Like, I don't think they'd ever go back on these shows because they have, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., from like an executive point of view, it's just like, how can we make more money from the Avengers when the Avengers films aren't running in cinemas? Well, let's make a TV series, it's just sort of made in tandem with the films, just because people will watch it and you'll make money from it. Like the Disney Plus shows we're getting now, they are like objectively the direct continuation of the MCU. Like no one can deny that. So I don't think you run the risk of them just changing their minds on everything, because it's not, they're not being like yes, it's two TV shows within like Marvel, but they're not created equal. Like the Disney Plus shows are, they are a continuation of the MCU. They're not.
It's essentially a film cut up, isn't it?
Pretty much,
That's
yeah.
pretty much
That's
what
a good
they
way
are.
to put it. Like,
Just a long film.
or in the case of WandaVision, it's just one trailer that's being cut into 8 episodes.
Pretty much. No,
Yeah,
that
it's
was.
true, yeah.
But I don't know if you guys remember the Netflix Marvel shows, so like Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and then Defenders, because they were meant to be a part of the MCU. Again, they referenced all of the events of Avengers and stuff. The characters were never mentioned in the Marvel film, so again, it's this one-way thing of the shows reference the films, but the films never reference the shows. And then, like, they cancelled all the shows. But there's a theory for the new Spider-Man film, because obviously at the end of Far From Home, Peter's identity gets revealed. So obviously it's going to be a whole thing of like, essentially like Peter versus the people kind of thing. But the theory is that Matt Murdock, who is Daredevil, is going to be the one who is his not judge. No, what's the one? His lawyer. He's the one who represents him. But that then means, if that is the case, and they do go with Charlie Cox again as the actor, they're reintroducing a character, and they're going to spend time reintroducing him, even though we already know who he is, because we already had this show giving him his whole he had a whole backstory. It was a whole show about him and his character, but yet because they cut ties with that, they're just going to need to reintroduce him. Like he might not even be in it. But it's like, if he is, then they're just going to spend time saying, this is who this guy is, this is what he does, this is why he's blind. And yeah, it just feels like they, unless they've put like multi-million-dollar price tags and everything that can be in the show, it's just not worth being a part of the universe.
I mean,
luckily for me, I've not seen those, but
I've seen none of the Marvel Netflix shows. I'll admit that.
yeah,
Fair enough.
I've seen like Punisher, but I got bored of it quite quickly, so I just left it.
Nah, fair enough.
See, my friend said the exact same thing, so I decided not to watch it in the first place. I was like, is the Punisher any good? They're like, yeah, it's a bit boring now. I was like, all right then, won't watch it.
Yeah, you get like one good scene every couple episodes, just keeping you in it. But no, it's not for me. Even though I like John Barr, I forgot his name, but the actor, I really like him. Yeah, I couldn't stick through it. But maybe these new ones have got a different like approach to making people stay invested. Even though WandaVision, you could say, wasn't like that, but I'm trying to think. Do you reckon maybe the fact that these shows, like, let's say you watch a new show, they've got to like get your attention straight away so that you stay through the show, right? But do you reckon because these Marvel shows and maybe other companies as well, they already have your attention, so they can take longer? Do you reckon it might change the way that TV shows in general could be made? Like instead of getting you straight away, they already have you, so they could just take a new approach about the narrative and whatever.
Oh, what? Like they know you're going to watch it regardless.
Yeah,
so they don't need to draw you in.
That media res, as they say, like straight away into the action to get you involved, like a starting plot line. Maybe they can spend more time developing the characters because they already have you invested.
Yeah, I guess they kind of did that with both shows actually, because WandaVision you're dropped straight in it. Like they don't need to explain why Vision is a robot or android or whatever. And why Wanda can move things with her mind. They didn't need to explain it because that lore was already there.
A good point on this is actually like I watched the first 2 episodes with my girlfriend before she had seen all the MCU films that make those first 2 episodes make sense, and she hated them. Like she watched them, she was like, "This is bollocks. Like what's going on? Like it doesn't make any sense." But me, meanwhile, I was like, "Oh, wait for it," because obviously I knew who Wanda was, I knew who Vision was, I understood that there was something else at play. And then we went back and we watched all the stuff, all the MCU films, and then we rewatched WandaVision, and all of a sudden she was like, "Oh, okay, I get it." Like, so that's a pretty good sample there. Someone who didn't know about the characters before the show watched those first 2 episodes and did not want to watch the third. Just simply didn't want to. Only watched the third because I made her do it. But me, meanwhile, I know what the characters are, and I wouldn't say that I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing," but like I was intrigued enough because I understood who the characters were, and I knew that something was on its way to being revealed, and I knew that something wasn't, as it appeared.
That's like a scary amount of power, that, isn't it? That they don't even have to try because they just know you're going to watch it. I get that's what I'm saying, and maybe that becomes a new norm for their kind of shows. Or
I think for Marvel shows, yes, but I don't think there's any other franchise which could do what Marvel are doing, because they've got their own platform. Like, so they can just release things as and when. But
I hope that other shows don't try and
nothing
copy
is
it.
coming to mind. Yeah, I really hope there isn't anything else, because Marvel is that very unique thing where they can do any sort of show as long as it fits that character, and it will be good, because they've got the budget to do it, they've got the writers, they've got a whole horde of characters they can use. With like, what is it? It's like 100 years worth of history they can go back through. I don't know when Marvel Comics started. To be fair, I think it was like the 40s or whatever. But like they've got a whole backlog of characters with lore and stories and all of this, and they can do it. But then, like, could you imagine Jurassic Park trying to do that? Like the films that they're successful. They get people watching. All dinosaurs, cool, whatever. But I don't think they could come out with a TV show and it be the same. It wouldn't work in the same way.
like a Chris Pratt spin-off kind of thing, you mean?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know his name in the film. I've only seen the first one, Jurassic
same.
World. I didn't watch the other ones.
I saw the second one.
Good film
plan. And I saw the second one, and it's all right. Like, it's good, but it's just sort of like.
I think the thing is, the first film gave me everything I wanted to see. Like, I watched them because I wanted to see dinosaurs in sweet high definition, modern day special effects, and see the set pieces. That's what I wanted to see. So when the second one came out, I was like, well, I've already seen what it is I wanted from the films. I didn't care for the story.
Yeah, but it's dinosaurs in higher definition.
Yeah, but my TV hasn't gotten better since the first one came out, so I'm still good with the first one.
That's the worry with some of those other films. There's a recent one, Godzilla King Kong. Have you seen that?
Oh God, no! I haven't even seen the last film.
Well, the thing is that I wasn't interested in watching it. I saw some clip on YouTube. Best fight scenes probably got millions of views. And you're not going to get anyone watching the film because they only go to the film to watch those fight scenes. So you just get all you want in a 5-minute clip on YouTube. And that whole film just becomes a bit So they get you to come for the characters and that, but maybe, I don't know, with YouTube and all sorts, maybe that's going to kill it out eventually because all you want is there in a 5-minute clip.
I love the meme where it's Godzilla standing in the ocean. And it's like it's up to his waist,
I remember you talking
kind
about
of thing. So obviously it's a deep ocean. He's a big animal, big creature. But how long are the guy's legs to the point he can stand up in the ocean? Like,
and he's not even as tall as a skyscraper or something. He's like the same height as them.
And then it just sort of someone took that and they they just literally had a sheet of paper underneath it and just drew really long legs. It's like realistically, this is what he's doing. It's just
What's your opinion on the not the original Godzilla, but like the first of the newest remakes, the one with Bryan Cranston and what's his face from Kick-Ass?
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I've not even seen that one. I've seen the Kong. I've seen that with Tom Hiddleston, but I've not seen
Oh,
the
yeah.
Like
Godzilla.
I watched that Godzilla one. I really enjoyed that film. Like, regardless of like the action set piece of Godzilla smashing up shit. Like I enjoyed that as its own film. I watched the Kong film, and it wasn't until afterwards that someone told me they were connected. I was like, oh, okay. And then they're like, oh, in
Yeah,
a
I
few
think there's
years
a
they're going to do a
post-credit
film that's
scene or
King
something.
Kong versus Godzilla, and I was like, fuck's sake, they're doing this because I enjoyed both of those
Yeah,
films.
there was
Godzilla more so. I enjoyed them both independently, but then when I realised it was all just building up to what is going to be like a 90-minute fight scene between the two, I was just like, oh, okay.
yeah, because I think there is a post-credit scene in Kong where Tom Hiddleston's character is just sitting in a room and he's getting
Yeah.
shown pictures of all the other creatures like Mothra and whatever the other one's called. Um, but yeah, it's that thing of they're trying to set up a universe, and it's just sort of they work well separately. They don't need to. They don't need to be connected. You've got everything you need. You don't need it to all be together. It's kind of like with you got Freddy
Yeah.
Krueger and Jason from Friday the 13th. Why on earth do you need a Freddy versus Jason film, let
Well,
alone two of them?
I mean, maybe they're not a good example, but I think with the MCU, everyone's going to try and do it. You see, with the Tom Cruise film, The Mummy, they tried their own
Oh
attempt to
God,
make a
yeah.
universe. Obviously, that didn't pay off at all. I didn't watch it. I don't think anyone else watched it. But
I've seen it and it is horrific.
yeah, so that everyone's going to try. If they've got any chance of trying to make their own little universe to just farm the films and make them out, I don't think it's going to work with
No.
Godzilla and King Kong. I don't know how they thought that would work, but yeah.
Well, it is quite funny in that film, in The Mummy, they have Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll. So you've got Jekyll and Hyde. And they introduce him, and it's like, yeah, this is Dr. Jekyll. And it's like, okay, well, that's very on the nose, then, isn't it? Like, we know something's going to happen here. And then he turns into Mr. Hyde, and it's all like, whoa. It's like, right, well, are you going to explain this? Oh, no, there was meant to be its own film explaining it? All right, cool. Great. Yeah.
No chance.
Because they had, like, Johnny Depp signed on for, like, The Invisible Man.
It did, yeah. I remember hearing that.
It's like a whole thing. I was excited to see it, and then the film came out. I was like, oh, right, okay. That one's gone.
Not surprised, really.
No, like Marvel did it well because they didn't immediately say this is what we're doing. They just dropped hints. Like I can't remember going to a cinema and not expecting a post-credit scene. Like that I just don't remember that being a thing where there weren't post-credit scenes. But obviously with Marvel now, it's ingrained in my head of just sit through the credits. There's something. There has to be.
No, it's not a good habit to be
Yeah, it's
sitting through Parasite waiting for the post-credit scene. I don't know if that's going to work.
maybe not. No, it was like with Endgame. I was like, oh, come on, there's a post-credit scene. There has to be. There has to be. And then you get the sound of Iron Man hitting, like building the suit, the Mark 1 suit in the cave. And that was it. I was like, you are kidding me. I've just sat through all this. I've been dying for the toilet after 3 hours. Oh. No, it's... Marvel did it well. They did it really well. And no one else has been able to replicate that success. DC have tried and failed. Like, they have successful films, but they're not seen in the same way that Marvel films are. They are a connected universe, but the Joss Whedon release of Justice League goes to show that they are just trying to go for comedic things where they need to accept their characters as much darker than Marvel and just go down that route. That's what people want to go see when they see DC heroes. Like Batman, he doesn't need to be cracking jokes. He needs to be beating the shit out of some guy in the corner.
That's what I don't get that right now with those DC films. Is that you've got the Justice League film just came out with the original Joker. They had Jared Leto, but then you've just had Joaquin Phoenix's film come out beforehand, and so you've got two Jokers at the same time, and then also that Batman obviously was in that film, and then you've got the new Batman being filmed with what's his name?
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson, yeah. Which I think, like, does that mean that those original ones are forgotten now already, and that maybe Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is going to be involved with Robert Pattinson's Batman. Like, did they even connect at all, or is it all just individual?
No. So the way I see it is Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is just its own thing. It was just exploring the character in an alternate universe.
There's no way they're not going to cash in again with the amount of money that made. They're going to make a sequel.
Oh
probably.
yeah, no, I think a sequel's been in talks for a while. But it was so yeah. Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, and it was it's an interesting watch. I'll say that. Like
I've not seen it. Not seen any films, have I?
I enjoyed watching it, but that's because I like the characters. Whereas it is literally just 4 hours, where every like 2 minutes there's slow mo. It's a really weird because it's 4 hours long, and someone worked out if you took out all the slow mo elements and played them at real speed, it would be like 40 minutes shorter or something. Or like 20 minutes shorter or something. There was a lot of slow mo. It was mad. But the Flash solo film has been in sort of production. What's the word I'm looking for? Like production hell or whatever for a long time. It's been sort of they had a director and then they didn't have a director, and they had writers and they didn't have writers, and it was like it was never going to happen. Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, all of a sudden films coming out like next year kind of thing. It's just the films don't really connect as well, but they're still making money.
That's what's really important. Making money.
That is what is important. But like the issue I had with Zack Snyder's Justice League was it sets up for a sequel, very clearly sets up for a sequel, but there's never going to be a sequel coming. Like they shot scenes specifically for the re-release, and those scenes are the scenes which set up for a sequel. And it's like, well, why? Where was the point in that? Because there's not going to be a sequel.
Because they want to see if all the hardcore film nuts like you are going to be like, give us a sequel, and if enough people are saying, give us a sequel, they'll give you a sequel.
Give us a sequel, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited for the Matt Reeves Batman though, because it looks like a darker take on it. It looks kind of like the Dark Knight-esque kind of thing, or it's a darker approach to the character.
Every now and then I'll go back to the trailer just to get a little feeling of excitement there. That's gonna be
See
so
him
good.
beating the hell out of some dude.
I'm a big fan of gritty films, you know, like Sicario, all that sort of just really intense films. I love them. So, and Mad Max, all that kind of thing. It's my definite favorite.
Is it I think there was a sequel was confirmed for Mad Max, but then there was also is it a show about Furiosa?
No, I think got merged the two together. I think they're making a sequel about Furiosa, or like a prequel about Furiosa. I think
that was it then, a prequel.
Yeah, with no Tom Hardy, I assume, if it's a prequel. But I mean, that's the main reason why people would go back to it, even though. Sorry, I forgot the actress's name. She's like really. That's the one. She's really famous, so she'll probably do all right by herself. But I think a big draw of being Mad Max with Tom Hardy is you'd want him in the film if you're going to make a sequel or something else. Yeah. But I remember seeing trailers for that in the cinema, going, "What is this? This looks terrible. This film." And I watched it. It's one of my favorite films there is. So
it is a good film. That's the thing, actually. What is a film where you were really excited to go and see it, but then it just it did not do well? Like it was a train wreck kind of thing.
It's a great question, which I'd need a couple of minutes to think about because there's probably so many.
I'll go with some filler. I'll put some filler in what Sam thinks about his answer, because I can go very quickly to like The Hobbit. Not just The Hobbit, the first film.
Yeah, I knew you'd be
the second, the third, the Hobbit franchise, not the franchise, the trilogy. I was so excited for that because I grew up with Lord of the Rings, and I was like, oh my god, another slice of the Middle Earth pie. Num num num. Got there and I was just like, all right, like it's okay, it's a bit fun, but
that's not it.
It's not the same thing. I don't want the same thing, but it was so just not good. Like it butchered the lore of the Lord of the Rings in order to make things.
Are they...
Basically, it butchered the canon of the storyline of the Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth to provide fan service, and that's basically what that entire trilogy is. Which, by the way, shouldn't even be in trilogy because it was a very short book. Yeah, it was a short book, and it was one book, and they somehow stretched 3 films out of it by just adding in things and unnecessary sequences just to pad out the time. It angered me.
Because they're doing a prequel series,
yes,
aren't
Amazon,
they? Because meant to be set like
Amazon
1,000
are doing
years
a prequel.
Before...
I'm not going to call it a prequel because then prequel implies that it sort of sets up the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, which I suppose in a way it does. But like Tolkien, basically, he wrote the Silmarillion, which is a book it takes place in the same world and universe as Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. And the Silmarillion is, I'm listening to it now on Audible, and the only way I can describe it is like it's a Bible. It's a Bible for Tolkien's legendarium. And within the Silmarillion, he talks about, like, in the Lord of the Rings, they mention like the third and the fourth age and stuff. I don't know if that rings a bell to you, but basically, like, the world of the Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings, is split into like 4 if you count the last one, but 3 ages where like things happen. First, second, third. And the third age is where Lord of the Rings happens, and the second age, which is a few thousand years before, is where this Amazon TV series is set. So it's set in the world of Lord of the Rings, but there is no, apart from a couple of elves, there are no characters that should appear in the Amazon series that also appear in the films, which is a good thing, I think, because it limits the amount of chances you get just to like shoehorn in some fan service. So it should exist.
You're like, they can't just have Orlando Bloom.
Actually, no. Orlando Bloom is probably the only character who could probably. He's one of the few, because elves live for forever until they get killed.
From what I heard, it's meant to be around the time where Sauron is just kicking about. So, it's like he first hands out the rings.
So the second age is like, you hear about it in the start of the Fellowship of the Ring, where Sauron made all these rings of power and stuff. The second age is where he was actually doing those things, and he was still a physical person that travelled around. So that's an exciting thing to see. Basically, the second age is where Sauron was at the height of his power. So that's an exciting thing to see. But yeah, Hobbit. Shit.
Hobbit for you. I was going to say, I've got 2 in my mind, and one of them is what I mentioned before we started recording, which is Mank, which I'll talk about. But the other one was called, because when I pick films, I don't like picking films that I think could be bad. I usually go for the Oscar nominees or something which behind it, I'll look into it. But there was a film called Beautiful Boy, which I think was made by Amazon. It had Steve Carell and Timothée Chalamet in. You probably have not even heard of it, right?
It rings a bell.
Yeah, so it's basically another attempt at Steve Carell trying to break away from The Office, and like a really serious film. So it's about like Timothée Chalamet's a drug addict, and he's his son, and he's trying to connect him. And I think it's based on a true story. But the issue with the film is that they kind of relied on these scenes between the 2 actors, and then you'd have the son go and go be a druggie or whatever, and then he'd try and come back, and then they'd have another scene, and it was just rinse and repeat, just constantly, as if they were just trying to rely on their acting. And I just sat there the whole film going, what is going on? When's it going to change? It was just this constant endless thing, and I think that might be the issue. Same reason why I've got for Mank is a lot of films nowadays are trying to make biopics for the sake of making them, because they do well with like Oscars and such. Like you got Bohemian Rhapsody, you've got what's it called, Darkest Hour. I'm trying to think of the big actor winners here, because they're like heavily reliant on just knowing the characters.
Elton John one.
That's Rocket Man, that one.
Rocket Man, that's it, yeah.
But so my issue with Mank here now, which no one knows is one of the Oscar-nominated films. They've got Gary Oldman as the main actor. They've got Amanda Seyfried in there. They've got so many good people in the cast. Just the issue is it's based off Herman Mankiewicz, who made Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane, yeah.
Yeah, so he made that film, and it's about him making that film. But unless you don't know who he is or have seen Citizen Kane or anything, you just won't understand what's going on. they've got this reliance of if you don't know who it is, then you won't enjoy it. But if you have seen it, then maybe you'll like it, and maybe you'll think it's a great film. And that's the reason why I don't like it at all. Is you're coming into it with this expectation, which they've not even warned you about. And it just doesn't work. It's my least favorite of the Oscar-nominated films.
Well, it's one of those things where Citizen Kane is one of those like everyone has to see it if you want to call yourself a film buff. It's like,
That's what I mean.
I don't want to watch a film from like the 50s or whenever it was
Yeah,
released.
it's said to be one of the greatest films of all time. So that's why I'm saying if you've seen that film, great, you'll enjoy. Maybe you'll enjoy Mank more than I did because I just haven't watched it.
Yeah.
So I haven't watched Citizen Kane, but uh, that's my issue with it. And you're just sitting along there going, "What is happening here? Who are these people?" And then you look them up online, and they're this big actor at the time who's in the film or involved in the industry. So yeah, that it just irritated me, that film, because
See, this is Hollywood trying to make their alteration of the MCU. They're trying to do prequels to all of their infamous films.
That's the thing, that there's so many biopics right now, which just seems to be doing well. And maybe Gary Oldman, I hope he doesn't win the Oscar for it, because I mean, he was good, but it just didn't really make any sense. But he probably will be up there because of his, because of the character he's like representing, because of their fame, and maybe he's doing a good job at recreating the character. But it just didn't work for me at all, that film. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. No, I think mine's a more recent film, but it was Six Underground. I don't know if you guys
Right.
heard of that. It's
The
a
Ryan
Michael
Reynolds
Bay.
one.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds and
Yeah.
Michael Bay. And I just remember being so excited for that because I love Ryan Reynolds as an actor, and Michael Bay films are 9 times out of 10 just explosion filled, stories. They have some story to them, but it's just a Michael Bay film. But this one is just explosions. There's no real story to it. It's just I just remember watching it. I was like, why are things happening? I've got no actual understanding of the world and why things are how they are. It's just these six people where you get a bit of backstory, but all you know is they're trying to get this guy because he's got this thing and he's got like the MacGuffin, and it's all like, yeah, come on, let's do it. Woo, explosions, Michael Bay, cool. Nothing really happens. Like there's a boat and people just start getting thrown around, and it's mental. And it's probably one of the only films where I was so excited. I was hyping it up for ages, and I just came out of it. I was like, I regret watching that.
I reckon that's just a highlight of you as a moviegoer, your expectations of what you want from the film. Maybe people have no care for what the narrative is. They just want to see explosions and stuff. Whereas you might go in and you think, I want to see some character development. I want to see some plot lines, and But I think that's just the two audiences which you might get.
Yeah.
I feel like we might fall into the more serious watchers, but people do like that stuff. I'm sure that film did really well in the. Is it even the box office right now? Because it's probably on the streaming service. But
Well, it was a Netflix original.
Yeah. I don't get how they keep making all of those. They must be in so much debt.
Yeah, Netflix, they refuse to release their numbers, don't they?
Probably.
Something like that.
But the other one, the Charlize Theron from that. That's why I remember her being quite a big name right now. Some film of her with a big axe, and those kind of films don't really, I don't know, don't really appeal to me. But the other ones, yeah,
not
you
Queen's
would have
Gambit. What?
you
No,
would have seen it. You would have seen
Old
it.
Guard. That's it.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, that was really, really big. It was like the highest watched film for a while, and nothing interested me about it, so I didn't watch it. But I guess that's just me as a movie watcher. I like to watch the more deeply narrative ones.
That's the thing, like everyone wants a different thing from films. It's like if you was going to go to a Fast and Furious film and like expect these deep character developing scenes, and you just got Vin Diesel with a wrench like trying to beat up Jason Statham. That's all you're going to get. Like you go to a Fast and Furious film to watch things explode and to watch bald-headed men attack each other, essentially. Like, and it's like rom-coms as well. Like you go to you watch a rom-com you get a certain thing from a rom-com, and not every film like can deliver those deep and impactful, like character-driven, story-driven moments. I think an issue is where like they try rather than just like Fast and Furious, like from like a story and character development point of view, garbage. Like it just is. But they know that. They don't care. Yeah, like they're trying
Yeah, I was
to
gonna
be
say
a
they
big
know
explosion, ball-headed man fueled mess,
Yeah.
and that's fine. Like
Because
they know it's
the
the
first
Vin
Fast
Diesel
and
and The
Furious,
Rock. That's the thing.
the first couple of films were all story driven. Like there
Yeah.
was an actual plot to the first one where Paul Walker was an undercover cop. Like he was trying to infiltrate the racing scene to, if I remember correctly, he was trying to take it down from the inside. But then all of a sudden he's robbing banks, and I'm like,
well, that's the
what the
thing.
hell
I
is
feel
going
like
on? The next one, they go out into space in a
the
car.
the first three, which was obviously Fast and Furious, the original, Too Fast, Too Furious, and Tokyo Drift, they were all story-driven things. And I think there's like Fast
Yeah.
4 is where it's the divergence happens, where it starts to be more about action than it does about story. And
What was the one where it was just Furious, or whatever it was? Like there was one where it was just a one-word title.
They're very clever with their names. Too Fast, Too Furious, you know, all that kind of thing.
Fast and Furious 9.
I know 7 was just
I
called
feel-
Fast 7.
Yeah, I watched that one. I actually enjoyed that one when they were jumping between the
Yeah.
buildings in the
The thing
car.
is, like,
Which just doesn't make any
yeah.
sense.
like, I enjoyed
but-
it for the spectacle, but then like I that one sort of always gets a pass for me because that's the one where they have the tribute to Paul Walker at the end. Because that's the first one
Oh,
where
of course, yeah.
like, a lot of his scenes are done with, I think his brothers filled in for him to finish like some of his scenes. So I watched that whole
Yeah,
thing and just been like,
'cause he's-
Paul. So
Yeah, because it was
Yeah.
a send-off to Paul Walker.
That's one of the crazy things about that film as well. It's like, do you reckon that film, you know, if they hadn't had all those scenes, it wouldn't have got the sort of like coverage it does? I think that just happens naturally, doesn't it? If someone passes away or whatever and is involved in it, it just gets like this huge traction. So there's also another film there that came up for this year's Oscars is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which is Chadwick Boseman has been nominated for, and that's what I'm thinking now. He's going to win the Oscar for that, for Best Actor. But he in the film he's a lot skinnier, and you can tell he looks a bit different. And so, but I think that film's got a lot more traction because he's passed away, and also he gives an amazing performance in the film. But it's like, yeah, it's like his last. It's just it's such a good performance. Yeah.
'Cause what is it? It's not post. Is it posthumous?
posthumous.
Is that it? Where they
Posthumous? Is that what it's
You
called?
what?
Post-
where they get the award after their death? Because Heath Ledger got one for The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And did The Crow, the guy who died in that? I can't remember. Something Lee.
I'm not sure. Do the research.
Can't remember what his name is. That's going to annoy me. Brandon Lee, that's it.
No.
Can't remember if he won an award for it. But yeah, like I feel like they might give him an award. I could see it, but is he the lead in it?
So it's sort of a leading role, but Viola Davis, is that the actress? She's also in it, and she's been nominated, and they're both really good. So the film is sort of like a play. You know, the sort of films where they have maybe 3 different scenes, and they're switch between the scenes. And it's just 3 locations, I should say, not scenes.
Yeah.
And so it's all focused on acting and narrative. So I think for that reason, it was sort of that the film was made to have winning actors from. Because other than that, the film's not that enjoyable in my opinion. It's just you have some sort of moments where the acting's really good. That's what I can really summarize it as.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's an interesting film. I wouldn't rewatch it, but for the first thing, you look at it and you go, wow, like that's a good performance. And so I guess if you did drama, you'd love it. But no, it's not my best picture winner.
No, fair enough.
Not this year.
Okay, go on then. I'll flip my last question on its head. What is a film which was better than you expected it to be? It was like you went into it and you were like, it's going to be a bit of a shit film.
So many.
Because I mean, right off the bat, I'll say we talked about this last week, Elliot. It was a film called Antebellum, and It's not even a horror. It's like a thriller, I guess. Um, where the plot was told to me as time traveling slavery, and I was like, okay, interesting. And I was so bored after about 15, 20 minutes. I was just on my phone. Um, and then sort of the reveal happens where you're sort of like everything slots into place and it's like you work out what has happened. And at that point, I was like, okay, this film is actually a lot better than I thought. Like, went into it thinking it's just going to be a bit shit, but it was one of those ones where I think we said the same thing, but it was um, it's one of the only fresh takes on a plot twist. Like, it's something I hadn't seen done before.
A fresh plot twist.
Fresh plot twist is very rare now. I think, to be fair, like there are probably other films where they have very similar premises, but I just haven't seen them.
Well, I've got two. I think one is it's pretty one of my favorite films. It's called Spotlight. Have you heard of that one? Spotlight?
No.
No. So it's about it won Best Picture in 2014, I think. It's about like the Boston Globe, which is like a newspaper, and they exposed some sort of undercover priest stuff, as you do. Like all this. So you have to watch the film. It's really good. It's got like Michael Keaton, Mark Ruffalo, Rachel McAdams, all of that lot. It's just like a film that you look at and you think, okay, it's about journalists who are uncovering a big news story, and on the base, it just doesn't seem very good. And it's quite a slow film as you'd expect, but I've rewatched it I think I've seen it maybe 6 times, and I never get bored of it. It's just, I don't know, it's the way they make it just keeps it so exciting. And then I say a second film, as to do with this year's Oscars, would be Sound of Metal. That's, for me, the easy winner. I think it's amazing.
That's one of the only ones I have seen. That was a good film.
That was crazy good. Yeah, I like seeing films when I think it's pretty decent. Maybe I have to go on my phone for a little bit, and then you just put your phone down. You're like, okay, here we go. Those are the films I like the most.
See, I don't really have like any films that come to mind because like I don't watch films that I'm not like bothered about. If you go, like
Okay.
I mean, one answer I could give is it's a bit sort of boring, whatever. But like when the Guardians of the Galaxy first came out, I was not interested whatsoever. Like, I think my friends wanted to watch it in the cinema, and I was like, I don't want to go and watch a talking raccoon thing and a tree and a wrestler and some other people I've never heard of, some B-list actors in a Marvel like spin-off thing. Like, I don't care. I'm not interested. Like, it's just. And then I watched it. And I was like, oh, actually, this is actually like fun. Like, there was a good performances from the actors, and it was like, it wasn't like a crazy amazing film or anything like that. But that was the only thing I could think of where I literally did not want to be in the cinema to watch it. And then I was like, oh, actually, that was good fun.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough. Trying to think, there was another one where again I went into the cinema and I was like, what even is this? I'm trying to think what it was. Oh, it's the one. It's a relatively old film, but it's sort of found footage about three guys who gain the ability to like manipulate things with their mind.
Is it Syndicate? No.
No.
I know what you mean. Oh, it's like begins with a P, isn't it? I don't know. I know exactly what you mean though. Yeah.
See, you said found footage. That's just reignited something in my brain because
Chronicle.
Oh, that's the one. Not
I want to change my answer
Chronicle
to the question because
okay.
The Blair Witch Project remake. Have you either of you seen that? Like the new one?
Oh, Blair Witch.
I didn't want to ruin the original.
Yeah, I've seen the original, and I went to that, and I was like, I sat down to watch that. I had my laptop out, and I was like, oh, here we go. How crap's this going to be? And I actually enjoyed it. I actually genuinely thought it was the same thing again, but it wasn't like
Yeah.
a Paranormal Activity problem where they just like, you know, tried too hard to make it into something more than what it was. But like I literally sat down and watched that film almost entirely out of spite because I wanted to like just say how bad it was, you know, as a remake. And I watched it and actually it's actually pretty good.
Is this the 2016 film?
Yes, I want to say so.
It's just
Blair
called
Witch.
Blair Witch. Yeah, because the guy who directed that is the one who directed Kong vs.
Is
or
it?
Godzilla vs. Kong. Yeah, same director.
Wow.
Like
Change of
I'm not
scene.
going to say that the new one is better or it's like amazing or anything like that, but you know,
Mm.
for the purposes of answering your question with something a bit more interesting, like I sat down to watch that film just to pick out things that was wrong with it, and I actually couldn't really find a fat lot wrong with it because you obviously to take it for what it is. It's a horror film in a forest. It's a remake of a horror film in a forest, I should say. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I enjoyed that in its own right. So yeah, I'm done. That's
To be fair, do you guys remember a film called As Above, So Below?
Yeah, I've sort of seen that film. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a horror film which takes place in the catacombs below Paris. And it's like what is it where like you crawl through like holes and stuff. I can't remember what it's called.
Uh,
Like bouldering or something. Um, but it's about a group of people who do that. It's all found footage, and it's a lot more. There's a lot more to it than I first thought. Like going into it, I was like, it's just gonna be, you know, like typical jump scare kind of thing. And it's like, no, there's a whole thing happening, like in the background that you're not even aware of it until it's revealed. It's an interesting film if you haven't seen it. Good watch.
it seems like for you guys the films you go into which aren't you don't expect it to be as good at horror films maybe. Those seem
Maybe.
to be the
it's because there's
ones.
so many horror films that are
But
just awful. So you sort of go into
Yeah,
them. You sort of
it's
hope they're
true.
going to be good, but you think they're going to be poor, and usually they are.
But
to
I
be
think it's all.
fair.
Sorry, you go.
Oh no, God.
I was gonna say it's so subjective or objective, whatever the word is, because I can guarantee you both seen those films and thought they're much better than I thought they were going to be, and there's a whole load of people who went this is
Oh yeah,
terrible, and then probably another lot who said it's good. So it's definitely for the genre which you can have your own opinion on by far.
Oh yeah.
It's just what scares you, you know? What kind of question is that?
Well, I think did we might have mentioned these films last week, Elliot, but the
yeah.
Insidious
That rings a
films,
bell.
the first time I watched Insidious, like the first one, I went into it, I was like, oh, you know, whatever, like it's fine. And I came out, I was like, that was
Hmm.
a really good film. And thankfully, the second one had just come out, so I was then able to watch the second one. Um, and it was like, I actually enjoyed watching those films. Like, yes, they have like horror elements, but there's also a story. Because what I don't like is just a film where they rely purely on just jump scares. So it's like, well, give me a
Hmm.
story so I'm interested and not just sitting on the edge of my seat, just waiting for
Yeah, because
this dude to pop out from around the
like it's
corner.
hard to be scared when you don't care about what's happening on the screen.
Mm.
Like
No, it's true.
so many horror films I've watched, and I'm just sort of, you know, obviously all the cliches and all the tropes are there, and you're like, and there isn't like something compelling about the characters or the story, so you just sort of sit there and you're like, you know, you're checking your watch, waiting for the next jump scare to pop up. But when you actually care about the characters, that's when you start to pay attention, and then you'll be focused on the story, and then there's a jump scare. Like we talked about it last week or whenever it was about the over the shoulder jump scare in the first Insidious. Like
Yeah,
that was so effective because in that scene, it's the characters just sitting and talking about the story. So you're focusing in, trying to pay attention to the important stuff that you want to know for the story, and then all of a sudden there's a scare, and that's why it works so well. When if they're just in a dark room thinking, oh, I think there's a ghost in here, and it's like, oh yes, there is a ghost behind you. You know, that's just sort of like, oh, okay then. But when they're sitting around talking about the story, you get invested in that conversation, and then you're just as shook
yeah.
by the jump scare as they are.
can't remember if I think it's the third Insidious film, where it's like at the end because it's a prequel. So then at the end, you see the I think I've always known him as like the lipstick demon, like the red demon. You see him again as a jump scare, and that threw me because I was watching it. I was like, it was all right, and then that happened. I was like, oh shit, because I forgot it was part of the same universe. So that was good. Then, because that's all part of the James Wan, sort of
the connected
universe of horror films, the Conjuring verse or whatever they called it.
They got a new Conjuring trailer.
Yeah, that looks quite good actually. But they tried because they had the main antagonist in the Conjuring was is it Valak? The nun.
Yeah.
And then they had the Nun film.
That is one of the films that let me down.
Yeah. And that was one where it was so hyped up. It was like, yeah, this is the next one. It's the next project. It's about this demon that's been haunting these people, and everyone wants to see it. And it was so shit.
And they were like, the blood of Jesus Christ. Like, where have you got that from then? Yeah, it's ridiculous, that film.
Because I genuinely think the people who edit like the teaser trailer, so like the first trailer you see for a film, the people who edit those are geniuses. Because that first trailer, I was hooked immediately. I was like, I want to see this film. Because it's the bit where she's walking down the corridor and you see someone behind her. She's walking down the corridor, she stops, and then she turns around, and then something just comes out the side, and it's like it comes out.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember being terrified. Yeah.
And it was like at that point, I was like, that looks amazing. And then you get in, it's like, oh, that's all the best bits of the film in the trailer. Then there's just,
it always is.
It is always the case.
I was going to mention though, you said before how you like in horror films the narrative to be quite good and to drag you in a little bit to make you forget what you're watching really. So have you both seen The Haunting of Hill House or Bly Manor?
I haven't seen Bly Manor.
Have you seen those? Bly Manor.
Yeah, I've seen both.
They were. I enjoyed both of them. I think Hill House was just better because
Hill House was stronger, definitely.
But that's an interesting idea that maybe horror TV shows are better suited for the narrative-wise to make you sort of forget where you are and what you're watching.
Well, I think those shows have a very different approach to it because you go into it's a horror, but it's not just straight up jump scares. It's like, I think it's literally the first episode of Hill House where the brother gets home. He's just met the other brother. Yeah. He's on the phone to someone. He gets into his flat. He turns around. The sister's there, and at this point, we know the sister's dead, but he doesn't.
That scared me. I feel. And
then it's like he turns around, and he's like, "Are you all right?" And all of a sudden, she's up in his face, and that genuinely made me jump. I was like, "Fucking hell, that was good!" And it's because you don't expect things like that from a TV show, and it's very well done. Like Bly Manor was more playing off psychological horror more than anything, I think. But it was like no, it was Bly Manor. The episode with the lady in the lake, where you see her for the first time, and it's
she's stuck in the room.
No. You see her from the perspective of the kids, where she grabs, like she's walking her path up and down the stairs.
Right.
And then that's when she grabs whatever the guy's name is.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Like that was that because it was such a haunting image. Like this will mean nothing to you, Elliot. It won't make any sense. But it was such a haunting sort of thing of like that is just creepy, and it was great. But then it was sort of there were other elements of the show where I was like, I'm just bored. Whereas with Hill House, I didn't feel like I was bored watching it because there was like 7 different stories all going on at once, and then they all connect when they all get to the house.
Yeah, just quickly on the Bly Manor show, there was the housekeeper lady. I don't want to spoil anything, but there was just an episode. Obviously, in the horror shows, you're gonna have certain characters who are not really what they seem or whatever. I'm trying my best not to spoil this, but
I'll take my headset off.
They have. because you have to like look at this again. So I don't know if you can hear me anyway, but yeah, when they had to like, don't worry, I'm not gonna spoil it. Don't worry, I'm not gonna spoil it. Basically, they sort of gave her like a reveal episode, but they gave it like 3 episodes in or 4 episodes in. So that they could have built up this whole idea, but they just gave it away, and then it went downhill from there. I thought, but yeah, no, I'm not going to spoil anything. But
no, I thought the reveal was like towards the end of the season.
Was it? It might have been. I can't.
I think
remember.
it was towards the end because then it goes back and it plays through all these other scenes.
Yeah, it must have been. It must have been.
And it's like things start to slot into place. Like that is another place. That's another way in which those shows are very strong, because it's like you're given everything you need. But then it's that one element that you're given right at the end, and everything slots into place. But it was with Haunting of Hill House. I think it was like episode 5 or 6 or something, where it's the whole episode takes place across 3 takes, and it's just 3. I think it's the average take length is like 15 minutes because it's a 45-minute episode, or like around that. And then it's just 3 takes throughout the entire thing, and that I really enjoyed from a filmmaking perspective. Maybe not story.
You mentioned that to me, yeah.
But it was just watching that and trying to then work out in my head, how the hell have they done that? Because there's one bit where the character, the camera just floats down, and it's like, how have you done that? It's just you're just moving. I don't. But then they show the behind the scenes, and it's like
elevator.
They made a set they can just disassemble as and when they need. Like, I think they knew off the get-go they were doing an episode like that, and they built the set accordingly, which is quite interesting. But that was really good. But unfortunately, there was no part 2 in the Bly Manor series. Yeah. Well, it was yeah, they were good shows. Don't really know what else to say. Oh, fair enough. Anyway, right, how long have we been going?
About 1 hour 12 minutes. Pretty strong.
So yeah. Has anyone got any other topics they want to talk about?
I'm pretty good, to be honest, mate. I think we've reached our natural end point.
All right. Well, in which case, thank you for watching. Thank you to Sam for coming on to this episode.
No worries. I've enjoyed it. It's nice.
And yeah, we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Goodbye, treasured viewers.